Call the meeting to order at 6:33. This is the public hearing. Please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce is absent. Trustee Mason.
Here.
Trustee Peterson.
Here.
Trustee Luther.
Here.
Trustee Berman.
Here.
Trustee Dominiac.
Here.
Mayor Gardner.
Present. This is a public hearing regarding the annual appropriation ordinance. Are you presenting?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Board. Yes, before you, you have an appropriation ordinance. You recently passed the approval of the operating budget. The difference between the operating budget is you give us the day-to-day authority to purchase items and stay within the boundaries of those budgets. Revenues meeting the expenses to cover it. The appropriation ordinance is one of the most important ordinances that a board passes and approves. The reason being is because it really sets the legal spending authority for a municipality. It is also the basis for a tax levy. You see on the first page, you see that the appropriation is way above what the operating budget is. And that's due to the fact that during the operating year, sometimes we get revenues or grants. For example, this year we anticipate the issuance of a bond. At this time, we do not know what those expenses are, but we have budget, we have placed contingency expenses to cover those expenses. So this is something you do annually with the public hearing. It gets published and approved by court.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, if not, I ask for a roll call, please. Motion to close the public hearing. Motion trustee Dominiac, second trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Mason.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Berman.
Yes.
Dominiac.
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. Meetings adjourned at 6:35. Right. 6:35, calling to order the meeting regarding the intent to issue general obligation bonds. I entertain a roll call, please.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Peterson. Trustee Luther.
Here.
Trustee Berman.
Here.
Trustee Dominiac.
Here.
Mayor Gardner.
Present. This is again a public hearing on the intent to issue general obligation bonds, alternative revenue source series 2022. I believe we have Daryl Davidson on Zoom to present this matter.
Yeah, he's coming up now.
Good evening. I'm Daryl Davidson. I'm a partner at Miller Canfield. I'm the bond counsel to the village with respect to the issuance of the bonds proposed for major infrastructure projects within the village to be funded in the upcoming 3 years. So the reason for the hearing tonight is with respect to state law requiring that a hearing be held with respect to this bond issue that the village proposes to issue. There will be, after this hearing, there will be a resolution on the regular business of the village board later this evening that I have drafted with respect to the approval of moving forward with this bond issue. It's going to be resolution number 2254, and it's on the agenda for this evening. If there's any questions about the procedures with respect to this bond issue, I'd be very happy to answer them at this point.
Any questions from the trustees? All right, I'd like to open the floor for any questions from the public. All right, if not, I entertain a motion as second to adjourn the public. Motion trustee Luther. Second trustee Peterson, roll call, please.
Mason.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Berman.
Yes.
Dominiac.
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no. Meeting's adjourned at 6:38 p.m. All right. Pass it down. All right. Calling to order the regular village board meeting at again 6:38 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce is absent. Trustee Mason. Trustee Peterson.
Here.
Trustee Luther.
Here.
Trustee Berman.
Here.
Trustee Dominion.
Here.
Mayor Gardner.
Present. First is the mayoral report. So we have a couple items on the agenda. First, I would like to acknowledge, and I see a few of the members here, the Antioch softball team, which had a run in the state tournament this year. They finished third. I believe they lost the first place team by a run or two, so they were this close. I was able to see them come back from their victory about a month ago, I guess. So I'd like the members of the softball team to stand up and be acknowledged. And if anybody, the captain, the coach, any teammate wants to come up and say something about your season, come up here to the front, please. All right, don't be shy. Synopsis of your season, real quick.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah.
We had a great run. We were 30-4 on the season. After we start off the season ranked number 2 in the entire state for Class 3A. After about the first 2 weeks, our team was ranked number 1 for about 8 straight weeks. We had 5 players nominated all area team between the Daily Herald, Lake County News Sun. Casey Schuler, our pitcher, was player of the year in both papers. We had 2 first-team All-State players, 1 second-team All-State player this year, 8 all-conference players. We're setting 1 senior on to play at the next level, University of Illinois, the Big Ten, as well as a couple other kids committed. One right here, Eden, raise your hand. Should be 2 years from now, I'll be playing at the University of Wisconsin. Our team also had about 8 players make all conference, all academic, and we were, as a team, all academic, all state for the IHSA.
Moran, come up here and take a picture. So that's all. I think it was a wrestling team. 3rd place, you come to the village board, and 1st place you get a parade. So actually,
You all want me to shoot the
All right.
picture for you?
yeah.
All right, I think 5 or 6 to be sure. 1, 2, 3, hold on. A little different this time. 1, 2, 3. One of those should do it. Hey, Tom Weber, Facebook, State Rep.
All right, thanks, guys. Congratulations. All right, thank you. All right, on another note, I would be remiss if we didn't, this is our first board meeting since the events in tragedy at Highland Park, so I think we should all just take a 30-second moment of silence to remember the victims of that. We had victims of that incident that were residents of Antioch, so getting closer to home than a lot of us realize. But again, please take a brief moment of silence. All right, thank you. I'm not sure if he's present. Is Tim Evans here? Okay, so next item on the agenda is the appointment of Timothy Evans as the hearing officer for the Village of Antioch adjudication hearings. Not only is he working for the village a little bit now as a deputy liquor commissioner, he is the handpicked successor of our previous public hearing or adjudication officer. So again, I'd ask for a motion and a second to appoint Timothy Evans as the hearing officer? Motion trustee Peterson, second trustee Bluthart. Roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Minnick,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. All right. Oh, one more, okay. So we're getting into the public comments here in a minute, and as part of that, I want to have the village clerk read the standard for the public comment, and then I'll make a comment before we start this. All right, I'll make my comment first while we. All right, so dear residents and concerned citizens, I just wrote this morning, so bear with me. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to address what I perceive as an ongoing issue in our village. Since 2019 or 20, there have been several Antioch-related Facebook pages that have been created, both for citizens as a whole, special interest groups, individual pages that have unfortunately been used to sow discord, attack each other, promote false information, and other political agendas. Over my first year in office, these posts and the reactions to them have clearly divided the community. The constant bantering on Facebook and requests for village to get involved in these matters that are not under our control or jurisdiction have gone on too much. It has taken up too much of my time, trustees' time, village staff time due to the repeated and consistent requests for the village to get involved in these debates. We, the village, are not the Facebook police. I've made the decision that I will no longer engage in or be sucked into the factions or special interest groups that make that the village business. If there is a legitimate village issue involved, the appropriate staff member will respond. If you have an issue with me directly, a particular staff member, or a trustee, you should take it up with that person themselves. We are here to serve all the citizens of Antioch and will not be refereeing disputes on Facebook. The items that we can and will focus on are the following items: village capital projects, including the old Pittman property, building a new village hall, and a new public works facility. Making sure the citizens have police protection, public works projects are completed, snow removal, parks activities, public events, safe water and sewer, recruiting and maintaining our business community, and citizens' concerns directly related to any of the above. Anything not falling in these categories are generally outside the scope and purview of the village's legal authority. One example of what the village can't do is ban books from a local bookstore because of the content. Based on what I've been told, there will be individuals here tonight on both sides asking us to force a local bookstore not to sell a certain book. That action by the village may be considered a violation of the First Amendment. It is not in the best interest of our community to be getting into constitutional litigation. We need to respect each other's viewpoints and differences on these matters. On the other hand, for the same reason, I cannot prohibit elected members of this board from saying things that are protected by their First Amendment rights. Now, the village is here to help our citizens. I'm not interested in, nor are any of the members of our board or staff, in violating anyone's free speech rights or make them uncomfortable before the board. Please know that we hope each side of these debates tonight can understand that we will listen to the concerns, but will not engage in any debate during the public comment at a village level. This is a nonpartisan body, it should remain that way. The good news is we have elections coming up this spring, so I encourage you to use your passion to run for office and debate those issues during your campaign. But our policy going forward is not to get involved in the Facebook debates. Anybody who has signed up tonight will be given 3 minutes to speak, and any of the trustees that wish to comment on any of these items, I'd ask to comment during the trustee reports at the end of the meeting. So thank you, and I'm going to have Madam Clerk Lori read the rules for public comment tonight.
The opportunity to speak to the board is provided for members of the public who have a comment to make about the business of the board. The board appreciates hearing from stakeholders and values your thoughts and questions. The board strives to make the best decisions for the village, and public input is very helpful. The board must protect the civility and decorum of this meeting. Please be respectful for the duties of the board and the democratic process in your comments tonight. Please state your name and address and address your comments to the board. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please be factual and courteous, and the board requests that you not make statements that are personally disrespectful or condescending to members of the board or staff. To the extent multiple speakers are addressing a single issue, the mayor or chair of the meeting reserves the right to limit the number of speakers making public comment of a repetitive nature and or limit the amount of time for public comment. The board does not respond to comments or attempt to answer questions during the public comment period.
All right, so I'm going to take these just in the order as they were signed up on the on the public comment sheet. So I'd ask when I call your name to come up to the microphone, speak clearly so people on Zoom can hear you, state your name and address for the record. And again, we're loosely going to be monitoring the 3-minute time frame. So the first person I have on the list is Leah Nueve. Good enough, close enough. Hey, Leah. All right, so again, floor is yours.
Okay, I'm Leah Nephew and I live in Lindenhurst. Do I have to give like an exact address? Like, I don't know how it really works, to be honest, but yeah. Hello, many of you might have heard of me, but if you haven't, I'm Leah Nephew and I'm 15 years old. I created the Genderqueer District 117 petition. My petition fought for an LGBTQIA+ book to be put back on school shelves after being restricted. Soon after, the district board and superintendent agreed to put the book back on the shelves. Now, my concern goes to the bookstore Little Bean Books, which is under heat for having the same book, Genderqueer, on their shelves. How many times am I going to have to write this speech? I'm at my limit of hearing adults say genderqueer is pornography when it has been proven it does not meet the definition of pornography. Genderqueer brings awareness to people all over the world that are struggling with their gender identity. As someone who personally identifies as non-binary and queer, this book resonated with me, and I hope others out there can resonate in the same way. What I struggle with the most, though, is seeing adults who say they are not homophobic just to turn around on Facebook and write multiple posts talking about how they do not support the LGBTQIA+ community. It's hypocritical behavior. Mostly, I feel bad for the queer children of these parents who have to grow up in a household that does not support the LGBTQIA+ community or them. Little Bean Books is a privately owned bookstore. This privately owned bookstore has every right to freedom of expression, meaning they're able to sell any books they want, including LGBTQIA+ books. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next individual I have signed up is Nick Pierce. Nick?
Good evening, I'm Nick Pierce. I live in Lindenhurst. It is sad that we still have to discuss whether the book Genderqueer should be allowed on a simple bookshelf. This shouldn't even be up for debate. Genderqueer gives realistic representation of the LGBTQ+ community in the struggle of not understanding who you are. It helps people feel accepted, understood, and know that they are not alone. The bookstore, Little Beans Books, located in Antioch, is a public bookstore, so everyone should be allowed to pick out any book without having to personally ask for it or being forced to buy it online. Genderqueer should be allowed on the bookshelf. Just because they discuss mature topics doesn't mean they should be hidden away. People who check out this book are grown up enough to be mature about the topics expressed in these books. Plus, there are plenty more books that talk about sex, have sexual scenes, how to use drugs, or how to kill someone. We can't censor life. I think we can all agree that this book does no harm to anyone. It only gives people the knowledge and resources to help them when they are struggling and know that they are accepted and who they love or how they identify is normal. Just because people don't accept the LGBTQ+ community doesn't mean that these books should be hidden away. This book brings acceptance to everyone. If you are concerned about your child reading this, then talk to your child. Don't take this book away from others just because you don't like it and are homophobic/transphobic. Doesn't mean the world needs to be censored and bubble wrapped. Thank you.
Right, next on the list, I have Michael Mara.
So my name is Michael Mara, live in Antioch. I'm here and I'd like to show my appreciation for your statement earlier. And I'd like everybody to know that I have no interest in banning any books, closing any stores, boycotting any stores, or anything else. I'm here to ask the village to enforce their own ordinance regarding offense against morals and decency, 6-2-2. Okay, I'm asking that the community development officer, Mr. Garrigan, enforce this ordinance. And let me just read one quick. It shall be unlawful to sell or offer for sale or to circulate, pass, or one person to another or expose in any public place or anywhere in view of a store or place frequented by the public, any immoral, indecent, or obscene publication, printed or written matter, or picture, or other representation. It shall be unlawful, this is most important, shall be unlawful to keep any such publication, printed or written matter, picture, or other representation in any place frequented by or where it may come in the possession of minors, or to disclose or expose any such material to minors. Definition of a minor is anyone under the age of 18. Illinois state law regarding harmful material. Regards to harmful to minors means the quality of any description or representation in whatever form, nudity, sexual conduct, sexual excitement, sadomasochistic abuse when taken in the whole. It patently offensive or prevailing standards in the adult community in the state as a whole with respect to what is suitable material for minors. I'm not talking about just genderqueer. I'm talking about all adult material. Anything that is not appropriate, age appropriate, be put out of sight, out of view of minor children. That's all I'm asking. Material means any picture, photograph, drawing, sculpture, film, video game, computer, whatever, any book, magazine, printed, matter, whatever, reproduced. Minor means any person under the age of 18. This is under section 11-21 under harmful material. This is Illinois state law. Everybody's talking about First Amendment rights and everything else. I agree with the First Amendment rights and all 27 amendments, but it's very specific to when it comes to the protection of children. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking you as a village board to uphold your own ordinance. It's your responsibility as legislature. If you wish to change the ordinance, then go ahead and do so. Until then, I just ask that you do the same thing that you did for all the other businesses that were that had this type of material, and make them require them to put it in an age appropriate area. The day that the advertisement came out that this different material, adult material, was available in the store, that very same day, these books were displayed on the open, on the main shelf, right in view of the entire, anybody walking down the sidewalk. So that's what I ask. I know my time is up. I apologize if I went over, but I do ask you to enforce the ordinance. It's your job.
Thank you. Next speaker is Sue Dixon.
Here we go again. Sue Dixon, Antioch kid, grew up here. My child is part of the school district. I spent a lot of money in this community. I'd like to think we're a welcoming community. I believe that growing up. I still believe it now.
You still live in Antioch?
I live in Lindenhurst. My child goes to the Antioch schools. Sorry.
No, I thank you.
Oh, yeah. Books are tools for understanding complex issues. Our kids deserve to be seen. They deserve to be represented. I think it's important they have access to this literature. It is not pornography, no matter how much one side tries to spin it. It has been deemed to be not pornographic. It has been lauded as one of the most important books for our trans and gay kids to read. If this is something that we're going to ban at our level, we should be ashamed. We should be supporting our kids, whether they're straight, gay, or trans. We just have to stop this. Let's end this now. We want to make the board, or we want to ask the board to adopt a pledge all of our residents and all of our businesses. There are attacks being made against this bookstore. Yes, you're saying you're not getting involved, and I applaud you, Mayor, for making your statement at the beginning of this. Thank you for saying that, because we shouldn't be getting in the middle of Facebook battles. It's nonsense. But when our local businesses are being attacked, that's when I do expect you to step in and stop it. I ask for your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have, next speaker is Dwayne Moore. Devin Moore, I'm sorry, Devin Moore. Devin, you here? Oh, there, okay. Come up here and to the microphone. Thank you.
My name is Devin Moore. I live resident of Antioch. I hear about the food truck ordinance. You're pushing this ordinance for whatever reason, that's your agenda. But I have a problem with it because we go beyond paying, just coming to this town or in any town, wearing a whole $400 or $500. Nobody takes heed to the fact of what we put into running this food truck, just what they can get out of it. So I'm asking you to reopen the ordinance and take a look at how you're doing. You sent police towards me and everything. Whatever you, if you don't like the petition, it is what it is. But you still haven't brought it up yet. My business is legit. I got the copy for you. I got your payment. I don't know what's next you got up your sleeve to stop me from getting my license in this town. But there I am.
Thank you. All right, that's it for public comments. Agenda. Right, now we are going to move on to the regular business. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the June 22nd, 2022 public hearing and regular meeting minutes as presented. Do I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion trustee Dominiac, second trustee Bluthart. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Minnia,
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $441,589.28. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson,
Second.
second trustee Berman. Any discussion? Not, roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Minnia,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Third item, consideration and approval of a resolution concerning a hearing required to be held pursuant to the Bond Issue Notification Act of the State of Illinois prior to the sale of general obligation bonds, alternate revenue source series 2022 of the Village of Antioch, Lake County, Illinois, resolution number 22-54. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion trustee Dominiac,
Second.
second trustee Peterson. Any discussion? I have Daryl Davidson available if there's any questions. If not, roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Minnia,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of a resolution approving the artwork for the village placemaking proposal, Ghosted Bringing History to Downtown Antioch, resolution number 22-55. I have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson. Second trustee Dominiac. Any discussion? If not, we have Jim Moran available, and then we also have Abigail and Rachel available. Any questions or discussion? Yeah, we'll start on this side. Nice. Ed, do you have anything on this?
No.
Okay. Trustee Peterson?
Yeah, I'm just really am not shot on this one on the side of the, I keep a little beam.
Is that the one that's the alternative of the village hall
Yes.
postcard?
Postcard.
I think, if I remember correctly, we're kind of at the point where we're gonna put it, we're highly considering the side of the village hall building, is that right?
No.
So the one that looks like a postcard, and if you like, you can have Rachel kind of go over all. But the one that looks like a postcard with is slated for the side of the little beam, the building that's the little beam before. driving south on Main Street, the left to downtown. And then there's, I think the final slide in your presentation is the part of the village owned building up here above the finance department. It's a lot different than what it's been previously. It just says downtown area.
Is it an either or is it a both?
No, so right now, what you guys have in front of you is artwork, I think for a total, including this one, a total of 6 different places. What we can do is either, if you like all of them, move forward with pricing out all of them, or if there's one as a board that you guys don't like, you can always take that or go back to the drawing board and tweak stuff. The next step in the process would be taking the artwork to the people that would do the painting, and getting the pricing, and making sure that we fall. I have $40,000 budgeted for this project for this year. The 6 pieces in front of you, I doubt we could get done for that amount. So if there's one that either you don't like or we need to work on for possibly next year, we can always include it in. Trustee Peterson.
I'm thinking that the one on the wall of the, will be, that's gonna be the most expensive.
It's
got
got
a
a
lot of
lot
work, and I'd hate to eat up all the money on that one. And, you know, I think we're gonna encourage people to go and trample that garden and everything else. I just don't think it's a good place to put it. And it looks great just the way it is. I like the welcome to downtown up there. You know, I like that better on the old village hall there. And I'd rather do that one than the one on Little Lean. It's gonna cost a lot of money. And maybe we can get it done for 40,000 without this one. That's all I have.
Trustee Luther?
I like this version, or these versions, quite a bit more than the first round. But I agree with Trustee Peterson. Maybe we hold off on the Antioch postcard one for now. So I'd be all for approving the rest of them and then maybe working on what we do with that. But otherwise, I think we're definitely in the right direction.
Trustee Berman?
I agree with Trustee Peterson and Trustee Luther.
Trustee Dominion?
Yeah, I can agree with that. Good question on the color of the gamble sign. It doesn't look like light green. So will they tweak that so that it looks like the green and it is not?
So I know we had worked with Rachel. The question.
Sorry, I could not hear the question. Can you repeat it for me?
Yes, the question was on the green of the gamble sign. It looks like it's lighter or brighter than, and I didn't live here when Gambles was open, but it looks more bright than what I've seen of other pictures for that store. So I guess I'd have to defer to the people who know that store. I'm living here when it was open, but it looked a little too bright.
It was Hunter Green.
No. The original sign was this turquoise blue. In the package that you got for the last meeting.
I know. There's good things and bad things about Zoom, but we have to be hilarious, so.
So the original sign was a turquoisey green. It's not Kelly green, it's not forest green, it's not dark green. It's this color. And the building owner, who is the son of the man who had the Gamble store, came back, he nixed everything. He said he wanted simple, and so this is his choice, this last one, which is what's here. No lines, no red Nike stripe or whatever was in the original Gamble's advertising. So, but it is a turquoise blue green.
Clarity of that. As far as the postcard, I concur with my colleagues up there that we should hold off on that. I don't think it's the right location, and we had that discussion. I did have a question though about the welcome to downtown Antioch. When we talked about this, if we could maybe put welcome to the historic downtown Antioch, I'm wondering if there's a benefit to kind of box that in with the color behind it, rather than just the white paint. So that it kind of sticks out a little bit more.
Sure, my concern is that just looking at the building there, it's already been painted over, and so I think that putting another solid color like on top of it might require some like power washing of that, but we can definitely look at that and talk to the sign painters about that.
Okay, that would be great. I think it would just make it look more like a sign, and if we could add historic in there.
And add, sorry, that last part again, add what?
Welcome to historic downtown Antioch.
Okay.
We could do that. Otherwise, I think they all look really nice. So, we could get that done. The other question that I get is, will we see the iterations of what they look like when they're posted?
I don't know. I think, I mean, in all of these, for instance, on this Gambles one, like we have applied on the top in the renderings, like a Photoshop texture to show that, but I don't know that we have a way to exactly reproduce what they will look like when painted by the sign painters.
We don't know what the final product is going to look like.
Well, it will look like a lot like this, but a little bit lighter.
Now, Rachel, the company that's doing the painting, they do this. This isn't their first project. Right?
Yeah, no, this is one of the things that they specialize in is in ghost signs.
Maybe then we could just get some samples of other work that they've done. And
Sure, I can definitely send those along.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion on this matter? All right, if not, roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Minnick. Trustee Dominic,
are we approving it as it is up here? Or are we approving it as
With the recommended changes.
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is consideration and approval of the annual appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Ordinance number 22-07-36. I'd entertain a motion and a second waiving the second reading.
So move, within the second reading.
Second.
Waive and, okay, so motion is to waive and approve, correct? Correct. All right, motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Peterson, roll call please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Minnick,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. 6, consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute a 2-year contract with independent contractor Hughes Environmental Inc. as the village's water operator in charge. Resolution number 22-56. Do I have a motion and a second? Motion trustee Dominiac,
Second.
second trustee Peterson. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Minnick,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Consideration and approval, number 7, consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing and approving a certain memorandum of agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, resolution number 22-57. Motion in the second, please.
So move.
Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Dominiac. Any discussion on this matter? Roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Minnick,
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Consider number 8, consideration and approval of an emergency ordinance ratifying the mayoral declaration of emergency relating to coronavirus. Ordinance number 22-7-37. Do I have a motion in the second waiving the second reading and approving?
Waiving, someone waiving the second reading
Motion trustee Peterson,
and approving.
second trustee Dominiac. Any discussion?
Yeah, so what happens if we don't approve this? Does this allow people from building?
This is, yes, the main crux of this is not having to have an in-person or based on certain criteria.
That's fine. So if I vote no on this, we lose the expense money. Sometimes I believe there's no options to use. Now we take one without the other.
I don't know if you can, so
Because I've got minions on the horns now. You can hear it in the background. Who's the violator? How do we take one without the other?
I don't know if we can, but you know, I don't think you can separate it, but
Minions. So we got people sitting not coming to meetings. They're at home. Not coming to meetings and not doing their job. And they're using this to sit at home.
I don't hear the minion.
That's my little workers.
yeah, so,
The little workers.
okay, all right, let's go with the lawyer through this
Still needs
explanation.
to be under the open meeting law. There still has to be a declaration, disaster declaration. For remote meeting to take place under that section.
Right, because our Zoom meetings are supposed to be if you're working or medical. And I think lately that Zoom, that area of that has been kind of abused.
That section 7. There's two parts to it. There's the first part that talks about what you're referring to. You still have, that part requires a physical quorum present in order to exercise, to allow members to participate remotely. The second part is requires a governor's declaration, disaster declaration before it under compliance with certain requirements, and if those are satisfied, then in remote form it's possible.
So you can't have both. So we gotta take it up on a separate issue on the other one. I disagree.
If there's disagreement among the board on an issue.
How would you vote that? Because I'm ready to vote this down, just on a 50% attendance rate.
I'd have to look at it closely.
Any other discussion on this? So,
When's the next time this come up?
oh, it seems to be monthly, right?
So we can put this in for this month, the next one, you'll have an answer.
All right, roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Lavinia,
Yes,
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item is approval of a resolution accepting engagement letter of Addison Denolfo Hasselbeck Castaldo related to issuance of alternate source revenue bonds to fund capital projects, resolution number 22-58. We have a motion and a second. Motion trustee Dominiac,
Second.
second trustee Peterson. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Lavinia,
yes,
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item is the administrator's report. Any report, Jim? Village clerk report, Lori?
Yes, just to advise the board that in your packet is the MS4 report that is one of the tasks recommended by the IEPA that will be presented to the village board at a public meeting. So no action is required. If you have any questions on the report, you can direct them to administrative time, but this is just to let the record show that it's been provided to the board.
Thank you. Trustee reports. Any trustee reports on the right side here of my right?
I just have one comment.
Sure. Go ahead.
It's, I got a phone call about parking uptown. Some of the businesses would like to see the parking spots that are set aside for pickup. You know, we have a parking problem, we all know that. And it's very difficult for someone to have deliveries made, especially if they can't make it in the back of the building. People just running in to pick something up. I understand that, you know, it was curbside pickup, but, you know, I think that they would like to see that lifted, so I just would like to bring it to the board's attention and maybe at our next meeting, talk about it.
Can I add to my trustee report?
Yes.
So before you get curbside pickup, we gotta hate dogs in this board because Parker Shop doesn't have them. So everybody's a dog hater. Because there's 10 people there that go an hour and there's gonna be a dog killed there. And how does, I love Helen to death. Love Helen to death. But they get 2 parking spots and the Parker Shop gets none. I mean, that's insane. Parker Shop again gets 10 an hour. People dropping dogs off in the morning and picking up. They get none, 0. So we all gotta be dog haters. We all gotta be dog haters, not to give them a perk.
And just so the, you know, so for the board's knowledge, this has been discussed at staff meeting, the last staff meeting or two. So
Board meeting, said that we were having that a few months ago.
yes.
Yeah.
Did I know that Michael's
So-
letter though?
So if, Mr. Garrigan, do you want to respond briefly just to what the status is? Thank you.
Formally, formal correspondences have been forwarded to all the people who were granted temporary parking pickup spaces during COVID, advising them that they had to basically cease and desist. And I have been working with one owner specifically, a business. Actually, as of this afternoon, I met with that individual, and they have will probably be coming for the board at the next meeting, asking for relief from that request. So business owners have been advised they need to basically cease and eliminate these pickup zones. But again, I think you'll probably be discussing this at the next meeting because we have a business owner who's advised me that pickup business is approximately 20 to 25% of her business. Feels adamantly that would hurt her business, and therefore we'll be seeking relief from those who are partnership.
Trustee Dominion? Oh, no, is this related to this topic? If it's related, is this related, comments related to this topic? Okay, so if it's related to the parking, go ahead.
I did want to go over.
No, go ahead. No, we'll still go around the board for
I mean, if you have
reports.
anything to say on this.
Anything on this topic? Okay.
I also received a phone call from a retailer today as well, and said that I would raise this, so thank you for bringing that up. But we did bring it up a couple months ago, and I know you sent the letters out, and I know you got pushback, well, you got pushback might not be the right word, question about it, from one of the businesses, but the other businesses are still putting them out, so we may need to send another reminder.
So I'll follow up again with another letter and just giving them 7 days to cease. And at that point, but you'll be getting requested.
But there's the one on Lake Street too, they have the other side.
Correct. So that, no, I will follow that. But now was that approved as part of their, okay, so I will request that they remove that pickup parking space too.
Thank you. This side of the aisle. Okay, nothing? Trustee Dominion, anything?
Oh, I can thank you for your comment.
Thank you. All right, then I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, trustee Peterson. Second, trustee Dominion. Roll call, please.
Mason?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Luther?
Yes.
Berman?
Yes.
Dominion?
Yeah.
5 voting yes, motion's adjourned, meeting's adjourned at 7:22. We will take a 5-minute recess and start the committee of the whole meeting at 7:27. Call the meeting to order at 7:31. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce is absent. Trustee Mason?
Yeah.
Trustee Peterson?
Here.
Trustee Luther?
Here.
Trustee Berman?
Here.
Trustee Dominion?
Here.
Mayor Gardner?
Present. First item on the agenda is approval of the June 22nd, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented. Do I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Motion, trustee Peterson.
Second.
Second, trustee Berman. Roll call, please.
Mason?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Luther?
Yes.
Berman?
Yes.
Dominion?
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. There's no mayoral report for the committee of the whole meeting. Any citizens wishing to address the board? I don't believe so. So let's move on to regular business. First item on the committee of the whole meeting is employee handbook review, which again, I think Lori is going to go over the high-level changes for the employee handbook.
Thank you. In your packets, you have the revised, revamped employee handbook. Kathy Lampkin and I have been working on this for quite some time. And we created a kind of highlight sheet that goes over the different changes. I can go over those if you'd like. A majority of them are legislative or legal requirements that have to be in the handbook, so that's why those are changed. But some represent current practices that the village is doing now. One of the major changes is the vacation accrual. Employees previously were allowed to carry over 2 times their accrual rate. That will go down to 1 time their accrual rate, and then we'll have a chance this year to be paid out any vacation time that is over that for 1 time only. Other changes are the hiring of family members and the nepotism policy that is currently in our village code. So if you wish to have it read the way it does in the handbook, we'll have to come back to you with an ordinance amendment as well to make that change. The family members and nepotism.
It's section 5.4. Yeah. And page 158 has the summary of it, I believe.
So like I said, I won't read everything to you. You have it in your packet, but I'm happy to answer any questions about any changes.
All right, so we'll open up for discussion. Any discussion, Trustee Mason?
Nothing.
All right, Trustee Peterson,
I don't have any.
Trustee Bluthart, nothing. Trustee Berman,
Nothing.
Trustee Dominiac.
No, thank you for this work.
All right, so if there's not any objection, we'll move this to the regular meeting next time. All right, second item is the downtown beautification update. Mr. Garrigan is going to present the findings of the committee that's talked about the short-term beautification project.
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter, the downtown beautification project, as you know, is part of the strategic planning we discussed. We talked about some potential for downtown beautification this summer. Over the past month, several members of staff, including Public Works, members of Park Department, Planning, and Village Clerk, have been meeting with members of the Antioch Garden Club and also Jane Barsky from Anna's. We thought it was important to have a member of the business community on that task force. I'm sorry, that small committee. We've been meeting on a weekly basis, and I wanted to kind of walk you through some of what we call the small downtown improvements that we wanted to discuss and propose for this summer. When I say this summer, hopefully within the next month. These were some short-term, quick fixes that we thought we could accomplish that would have a limited impact on beautifying your downtown. So I wanted to walk you through. I think the first thing is obviously to recognize the current existing conditions. Recently, some of the landscape islands, I think we have been focusing on the Toss Street landscape islands. We identified an opportunity for creative designs and crosswalks, not only on Toss Street, but also we talked about Skidmore. We thought there were some exciting opportunities at Skidmore to create some interesting crosswalks. We thought there was an opportunity that the food truck event has been very successful this summer, and we anticipate they will continue to grow and become more popular. But we thought there was at least, an incremental level, there was an opportunity to create a small incremental temporary festival area for along Toss Street, in some way through planning or urban design to create more of a space, interesting space for the food trucks. In addition, we thought there was opportunities to incorporate some string lightings, decorative lightings in some of our arcades. We also wanted to work with the Park Department in regards to providing them either volunteers to work with them. They have some real challenging tasks operating more and more events. As more and more events become popular, We're currently discussing some opportunities to gain additional either volunteers or part-time seasonal employees to help break down events. Some of these, as you know, we have a lot of picnic tables out there, and where the park department's really responsible for moving those, and sometimes those can be challenging as these events. So we want to discuss some of the logistical challenges that staff has as we present more and more events downtown. One of the complaints we've had consistently is, unfortunately, some of our trash enclosures have seen better days. So we think there's some opportunities to address that, to beautify or just simply improve those trash enclosures. Another thing is we have identified there's a lack of trash enclosure on Toff Street. We have potentially 2 new restaurants that have expressed opportunities for outdoor eating facing Toff Street. They have contacted staff about the opportunity to relocate those receptacles away from those arcades. And therefore, we are continuing to work on or investigate where we could put a temporary trash enclosure in the Toff Street parking lot. So first thing I wanted to walk you through is the current conditions. So as you know, recently Public Works was out there for over a week cleaning up some of the existing landscape islands along Toff Street, which is a perfect opportunity to provide us a really blank canvas. So the first thing I wanted to focus on is provide you the emphasis of these landscape islands have some really old, tired landscaping. So I wanted to get the feedback from the village board on a proposal for some new comprehensive landscaping these islands. Each of these bullet points have identified a general cost of overall, so I'll walk you generally through those costs. So what we're proposing is these old junipers. Public Works made a good faith effort to cut these back, but you can see the current condition. Based on the current condition, the garden club is recommending that we remove these junipers. So as it relates to plantings and landscaping, I'm completely deferring to the garden club. I think the work speaks for itself. They've done a fantastic job all throughout the downtown, including the mini park. They take great pride in their work. So the overall goal here is to basically do new plantings, which are generally not only beautiful, but low maintenance. It's imperative that with the demand on Public Works that we don't create additional duties, responsibilities. So every plant I'm going to discuss here this evening will be generally a low maintenance plant. So the overall proposal is to replace these juniper bushes. In addition, there are some ornamental trees. Specifically, there's a Bradford pear that has to be removed. So we're proposing to remove this Bradford pear right here. Second. This Bradford pear has seen better days. So instead of trying to simply trim it, we're proposing to remove the Bradford pear and replace it with a decorative tree. As it relates to the actual planting areas, I want to very quickly identify the opportunities there. So what we come up is a uniform landscape plan for the islands. We wanted to basically incorporate a uniform planting list. We're proposing again to remove the junipers comprehensively on all the landscape islands along Toff Street. We're proposing to replace those junipers with a combination of spireas, Fulton grasses, sumac bushes, and elderberries, which are all basically native plantings indigenous to this area. They all provide seasonal color, and so what we've been doing is working with the garden club, as you can see here, to come up with a comprehensive plan. In addition, we propose to replace some of the ornamental trees that have seen better days there with either new ornamental trees or dogwoods, something that provides seasonal color. So overall, we have a comprehensive landscape plan. We've identified a total cost of approximately $3,000 for new landscaping along Toff Street. There are 6 islands, so to remove the existing landscaping, we would not remove the daylilies. Daylilies simply would basically relocate some of those daylilies. There are some existing spirea plants, shrubs that we would keep. We would add new spireas and add some other perennials and new shrubs for a total cost of $3,000. we think this would be a great foundation to improve all 6 islands along Top Street. So that's the first aspect I want to discuss is the proposal comprehensive plan for new landscaping. We believe that if there's support for this, this is something that can be done in the next month or so. And I guess this is just give you a comprehensive sort of sketch of what the plan, a much more robust, much more comprehensive seasonal color of the islands. Again, consistent with the recommendations of the Garden Club. So are there any questions about landscape? Okay, so the next aspect is we want to do, we thought some opportunities for crosswalks. I know as part of the strategic plan, we thought there were some opportunities to do some interesting crosswalks, something to provide some interest to the streets. So I wanted to kind of walk you through what our proposals are for the crosswalks. We've identified several areas. Again, we are not identifying Main Street. That's a rough IDOT jurisdiction, simply too complicated to talk about any changes to existing crosswalks on Main Street. So we generally focus on Lake Street and Top Street. We've identified really 3 areas. These areas are existing crosswalks. We are not proposing to add any additional crosswalks at this time. So the first crosswalk is the one on Lake Street, just existing adjacent to Victoria Street. The concept we thought was very creative. Actually, Coach Claire came up with this is actually taking the Bush logo and actually incorporate that in at the intersection of Lake Street and Victoria. So we thought this would be a really interesting way to celebrate downtown Antioch. As you know, we had our new marketing logo. Logos were approved last year. So as celebrating our new motif and our new logo, we thought it would be a great opportunity to incorporate our logo at this crosswalk. We can discuss the colors. I don't think the color is solidified, but there may be some opportunities to maybe incorporate a brighter color so it pops a little bit better. Some other areas that we've identified. We think there's an opportunity to incorporate at the crosswalk of Top Street and Lake to incorporate some dining, actually what we call spoons, forks, something to celebrate the restaurants or growing dining opportunities in Antioch. We think there's a way to celebrate that. As you know, Lake Street has numerous restaurants. It's becoming more and more vibrant every month. And therefore, we thought actually celebrating our dining experience in Antioch by incorporating some forks and knives and spoons along the crosswalk would be kind of fun and kind of interesting. So the way we do this, there's actually a company in California that actually can, within 3 or 4 days, can actually do stencils. We just simply would stencil these spoons and knives and forks off and incorporate that into our existing crosswalks on Lake Street. Now, with regards to the existing crosswalk on Top Street, one of the things we thought would be fun is, again, to provide some additional color to that existing crosswalk using the village's palette of colors and actually incorporating part of the village's logo. In this case, what we've done is we incorporate the village's leaf, which is incorporate kind of our new logo, to actually simply incorporate that into that crosswalk. So that would provide some, again, some additional interest, a little color. As you know, Top Street, there's a lot of asphalt on Top Street. So it's a continual discussion about are there opportunities to create some type of visual interest at Top Street by maybe painting sections of the street, to actually some artistic design elements. I think the committee had pulled back a little bit from that. So we wanted to start with the crosswalk. We also think there's some opportunities to maybe discuss that, create a festival area for the food trucks, whether we do that through painting or some other options. I'll review that later. So we've identified 3 crosswalks to be painted, and then through stenciling and painting, we think we can accomplish that again sometime by August. So that's something we're discussing. The other aspect, which I thought was fun, that Lori came up with, which I think was incredibly creative, is as we get more and more concerts, more and more activity along Skidmore, we thought there was a great opportunity to incorporate some new crosswalks along Skidmore with musical notes. It's just a simple way to celebrate the growing musical scene on Skidmore. as we see more and more concerts. So we think would be some opportunity to stencil some either musical notes or things along Skidmore, again, to have a little more fun, to create that additional visual interest. Because again, Skidmore, like Cough, has a lot of asphalt. So we thought there would be some opportunities to really very inexpensive way to simply paint the street with stencils and just create a little interest and a little fun along that area. So what we're proposing to do is some stenciling you can see along this corridor, all along Skidmore, by simply adding some musical notes and some painting of the street with stenciling. So again, this is an opportunity, I think, is to be creative and improve the space at a very, very low limited funds. Now, this is an example of a crosswalk actually at the Melody Farms. I just want to give you an example of what you can do with stenciling. Really interesting, and just again, adding a little fun and interest to a street. So that kind of reviews all the proposed improvements we're talking about as it relates to stenciling and crosswalks. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, and again, I think I gave you a price for stenciling, it would probably be under $1,500. Now, with regards to the actual trash enclosures, maybe the biggest expense we have, Public Works has continually been challenged, continually trying to maintain these trash enclosures. The biggest real challenge they have, and Dennis can speak to this, are the existing gates. I do have some pictures here. So we have some gates that we've kind of tried to basically cobble together. As you can see, and there's a continual maintenance issue. I mean, literally almost, if not monthly, bi-monthly, trying to keep these gates maintained and repaired. So what we're proposing is maybe the incorporation of completely new gates. When I say new enclosure gates, comprehensive redesign of the gates themselves, keeping the existing enclosures, maybe simply giving a new paint job, maybe adding some landscaping, but new gates which would improve these enclosures. We have two enclosures along Skidmore, which have been a continual maintenance issue. So that's what we're proposing as it relates to the trash enclosures. A comprehensive, again, repainting them, and then probably the incorporation of new gates, which I would think would hopefully address the visual issues that we have with these enclosures. So I've talked about landscaping. I've talked about adding some interest to the crosswalks. I've talked about enclosures. Other thing I wanted to talk about was lighting. One of the things that we're already working with the building owners in the mini park. We're working with both the adjacent building owners to add some decorative mini lights or hanging string lights at the mini park to again provide some decorative lighting. Within the next month or so. As you know, we added lights over near the pet grooming business there, and I think that has proved to be very successful. It's added some interest, along Main Street. So we're proposing to add new string lights, not only to the mini park, but also the area between Something Sweet and Waldron Construction, the deck. As you know, we installed a new deck there last year. So we are proposing to add mini lights, decorative lights along that deck area in the mini park, and we've identified a cost of approximately $2,500. Now, as it relates to the creating a festival area, as you know, as the food truck areas become more and more popular, and until we have the completion of the town commons, which probably will happen hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll probably have to use Top Street as a incremental area for our food truck events. So we thought there was an opportunity to create some visual interest at Top Street. There's several ways of doing that. One proposal I came up with, I've seen through whole tactical urbanist seminars I've attended, is simply adding a piece of astroturf and maybe putting some portable cafe tables on that astroturf to kind of create a small dining area in between the food trucks. We've also talked about adding a sail, like a canopy over near the existing garage area. As you know, we have a number of picnic tables. So one of the complaints we've had is that there's really a lack of shade for food truck events. So we thought there would be an opportunity to kind of create incremental canopy, which will provide shade for outdoor eating area with the picnic tables. So under this scenario, the picnic tables would not move. It would be basically in that little grassy knoll area. We would have a canopy over the picnic tables. Obviously, during the end of the season, we would remove this canopy and of course the picnic tables. But during summer, the picnic table area would stay static along with this new canopy. And we would emphasize maybe creating a new festival area. We could either paint sections of the street, of Tall Street, or maybe add some astroturf to kind of create a defined area for outdoor dining for the food truck events. There's a lot of asphalt there. It's not really perfectly conducive for food trucks, especially for outdoor dining or eating. So we thought there were some low budget opportunities to improve that space on a very temporary basis. The other thing we wanted to talk about was hiring an arborist. We've identified a budget for maybe $1,000 to look at some of our existing trees. One of the complaints we've had from building up businesses is the condition of our wells, the areas around the tree bases. There was some discussion about putting some additional landscaping along the tree wells, or maybe adding some decorative rocks. We probably need the advice. We don't want to damage the existing roots of those healthy trees. So therefore, we would like to hire an arborist to really look at the existing health of some of the existing trees. Some of the trees you can tell are already stressed out. We're going to have to probably work on a long-term plan for replanting new trees along Main Street, Lake Street. So maybe an arborist would help assist us in starting that discussion somewhere down the road. So in sum and substance, I covered a lot of material. But overall, we've identified a temporary budget of approximately $14,000 to make these temporary improvements over hopefully the next 30 days, 45 days. So with that, I'll be more happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Trustee Masek?
Yeah, so who owns the garbage gates? Where,
Sorry,
the village?
yeah, the closures, right?
Yeah, so those are all ours, those aren't the building owners,
It's my understanding they're village owned.
those are village owned.
I believe the reciprocals are privately owned, but the enclosures of the property is owned by the village of Antioch.
Okay, the one crosswalk you showed with the little flower that looks like money. That one I don't care for. I think you should look at, we always do sporting events here. I think the sporting atmosphere would be a better one for that crosswalk. Because we're always doing cheerleaders, softball, whatnot. Second, I forgot to bring it up in my trustee report. Where's our police fence? We got First Amendment orders. Cameras, you got any idea for cameras? When we do these projects, what about security? Because what happened a couple towns over, we never think about security in their downtown. So. So we never think about security. We don't, I don't believe, Pleasant Prairie takes a different idea. I think we should have a task force on our security in our downtown. I don't think we get enough security in our downtown to help our police department. I don't know if anybody understands what First Amendment auditors do, but we have them in our downtown right now. They're attacking our police. So they're going up with their films, they're going on Facebook, YouTube right now. We're under attack. So I don't know, every plan we have here, not one of them has cameras, lighting, trees and everything else. We don't have our fence. We had a directive for our fence, police fence to be up, build a fence, then we can worry about the landscape. I just don't understand. We always throw the police department and our public safety to the side every time. Maybe Highland Park did that, but look what happened to them. I don't want to be Highland Park. We got to live on caution, protect our citizens. We don't want to be, we should have. So I think this plan should be relooked at
and maybe look, how can we make sure when we're doing a park, how can we make sure that areas are protected? If something did happen, at least they're not gonna get away with it.
I mean, those are all good points. I would respectfully say, I don't know why you couldn't do both of those concurrent.
Well, I know, but it's never part of the proposal. It's never part of the proposal. I brought up that we do some type of facade program with our businesses, that we allow outside cameras, and then the businesses, we would have a grant fund with the outside cameras. Then we don't have to worry about the FOIA request to the cameras, but the police would have access to the outside cameras. So then we can have our downtown Main Street camera. That just went away. That was the last mayor. But we gotta relook at, and I think it should be a task force and look at, we gotta get our parks and downtown camera. I mean, we're in a different world right now. We are in a different world. I don't want my family killed. I don't want anybody's family killed. But we're in a different crazy world. There's mental health out there all day long. And when you get someone sitting there talking to themselves on the street, they go, what the heck is this guy doing? He's talking to his shadow. Nothing. I mean, we're in a different world, and I think every proposal should have a security program attached with it. So if this didn't have it, I wouldn't. I can't move forward with any proposal without protecting the public.
Thank you. Trustee Peterson?
All I have to say, I agree about safety and cameras. It would be wonderful to have. I wonder if the county has any input on that. If there's any monies for that. But I agree with it. I agree with that. We need cameras. I like, Michael, I like all of your ideas. Okay, thank you. Great. Let's do it.
All right, thank you. Trustee Luther?
Back to what we were talking about, beautification.
You need to speak in the microphone.
That's fine. Couple points on the landscaping of the areas. I just want to make sure they're all going to be uniform, correct? I don't want to see a hodgepodge of different.
No, that's why we came up with one. I showed you the master plan. So the plan is to use a master plan approach, the same plants in each island.
Okay.
So you'll see a combination of going again through spirea, sumacs, elderberries, daylilies, ornamental trees, and
whatever they decide is fine, but just as long as they're all.
Yeah, no, it'll be uniform design.
And then on the painting, is it a special type of paint, or is this something you're gonna put down, it's gonna be gone in a week?
No, it's the exact same paint you'll use. The Public Works uses for like striping. And
Okay. So it's not gonna be an annual thing, or will it be
I
something?
mean, I
we're gonna
can't promise you
read
that,
every-
it would look brand new. I think typically the villages that I've done research on, these paintings, they do it twice. They do it every 2 years.
Okay. And then the food truck events and the artificial turf you mentioned.
That was one concept.
Yeah, I love that idea. You mentioned, I didn't catch what you called them, the tables. That was one, I did get dragged into a couple discussions where people were saying that they needed more seating or some way of eating at the event. And are you talking about like the height?
Yeah,
You could stand and.
it's open for
get some
discussion.
on your-
Yeah, I'm talking about the simple cafe tables where people kind of stand and eat. I mean, right now, the biggest challenge, again, we have, staff is literally carrying those 150-pound picnic tables. And they're moving those, and it's just not conducive right now. It's not practical.
No, I'm just those counter,
Right,
I don't
right.
know what they call them.
They're like cafe tables.
Yeah, those things are like, I mean, you see those at all trade shows everywhere, everyone's standing around those eating, and I thought that would be
And
a
they're
simple
like,
way with some astroturf down that would clean it up and give people an area to eat. I think that would be.
I mean, I priced them out. You could buy them for $100 a piece, and we would have those
Donate them
for,
right to the village.
right, for future events.
No, but no, other than that, I think we need to proceed quickly. The summer is gonna be gone before we know it.
Thank you. Trustee Berman?
I like all the ideas. The only issue that I have is with the crosswalks. I really really think we need to leave the crosswalks as they are. People, like I stated before, that have low depth perception, they depend on these lines where they're at. I love the street design. I love the entry designs and the parking space. It's all a great idea. I really feel we need to leave the crosswalks alone. There's yet another public safety issue, so.
Thank you, trustee Dominiac.
Well, I think this is all really great and I'm excited about it. To trustee Berman's point on I love the one that Lori came up with the logo and over there by Little Bean. And maybe you could paint that inside those white lines. So that, yeah, that one. Is that what you were thinking?
Right, those-
Rather than make the crosswalk the letter A, it would be inside.
No, I'm sorry, that's for clarification, it would be paid, we wouldn't be touching the crosswalks here. The A would be within the crosswalks.
Right, so that would help. With what you're concerned about. If it was inside there. Because you'd still have the crosswalk, the white crosswalk.
But it would be small, it would be interfered across.
Yeah.
Right, across.
It's, well, oh, I see, okay, I see what you're saying.
Inside the
Yeah,
crosswalk
yeah, that would,
triangle.
So in that case, we're not changing crosswalks. Crosswalks will remain the same.
yeah.
We would be adding forks on the crosswalk on top of the lake.
If you did that in white paint, I think she
Right.
brings up a good point that you need to be cognizant of.
So
It
this-
kind of looks like mine.
So we're not changing the horizontal and vertical lines. So that crosswalk will remain the same. We literally can't touch the crosswalk. We'd just be adding a stencil in the middle of the asphalt area between the white lines. That makes sense.
Yeah, go
There are a lot of towns that went and did this. And then I'm trying to recall what it was. I think I would like to ask that we look into this further just to make sure, because I know sidelines on there, that has to be obviously, but it's the intersection that is concerning to me. I do have, I can get the information and let you know. I can't recall what.
Excuse me, like visually impaired, that's what you're worried about.
Yeah, visually impaired, like low depth perception, like my husband is blind in one eye. So his depth perception is off. And it's the way that the way that the crosswalks are laid out is they depend on that design. That's, that's what they're used to. It's good. So.
Well, then maybe it's kind of looking at another option where you would still have those lines, but something. in between.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know. If we can look more into that, just to make sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
And, you also have in your report about getting some part-time seasonal help, and if I remember correctly, at a meeting I went to with Director Quilty said that she's got seasonal staff that could be allocated to help with moving some of that furniture around and helping with the food truck festivals. Is that what you're speaking?
Well, we discussed that at a staff meeting, and I don't want to speak for Director Quilty, but there may be some challenges
Okay.
getting seasonal help. It does seem to be a lot of interest in that. I think it's fair to say there wasn't a lot of interest.
Oh, okay.
So we're also, I think we're talking right now internally with staff, how we either through volunteers to have those additional bodies that we're gonna need as we have more events.
And then do you have a date certain for when to do this?
We're shooting for either the second week of August, first week or second week of August. So it's based on your feedback, we're gonna have an additional meeting next week. We'll start working with the nurseries to start ordering the necessary plants. We will be working with hopefully volunteers to do most of the actual physical work. We'll need Public Works to maybe remove the junipers. But the actual plantings will hopefully all be done by volunteers, subject to analysis and review of the crosswalks. I'll work with Mr. Kime on that. And the lighting, I'm already in the process of getting those ordered, again, subject to your feedback. And I'll work with Public Works, Sherry, on the trash enclosures. And am I missing something? I think that's a pretty comprehensive list.
I think it's great when you get it wonderful.
All right, so, no, I would just say let's, based on the recommendations, let's move it to the next board meeting for, we can still have some minor discussion and hopefully approve a plan to move forward.
It's within, if these cost estimates are accurate, it's within a spending limit. Don't necessarily have to.
Let's just do it. Let's just do it. This is
To
going on for 2 years.
Ruthard's point, if you wait another 2 meetings, sure, it's gonna be over pretty quick. So if anybody objects to me trying to move these things forward and a $14,000 expenditure, speak up. If not, I'll just start moving.
Okay, and then let's just, based on whatever concerns are raised regarding the crosswalks, let's get, that information before we proceed. Okay, all right, so, I don't think we don't really need a vote, so it's just a discussion and let's go. All right. Last item on the committee of the whole is results of village board input on the village green options. Village green meaning property formerly known as Pittman property, so we know what we're talking about, but
I'm not going to single anyone out, but there's 3 of you that did not provide circles or X's to help the designers, understand the village board's, desires and how they design the motif and the look and feel of that park. So please just take 5 minutes, take the paper I gave you. If you need another copy, I'll give it to you. Literally take 5 minutes. You can do it before you leave. Just put X's on things you don't like and draw circles around things you do. That's it.
all right. And an update on that. I don't know if Jim has an update on this, but obviously Taste of Antioch, Taste of Summer, whatever it's called now, starts this week. The goal was as soon as they pick up the equipment, that the environmental work will start shortly thereafter. I don't know if you've heard anything from the environmental guys, but let's get some shovels in the ground. All right. So again, just get your comments in to Jim on those designs. We probably will have another meeting with the Lakota group. I'm guessing in the next, well, obviously within the next month, probably within the next couple of weeks. So. All right. Any other business? See Dominiac?
I apologize, I didn't bring this up at the other meeting. First, one thing is, can we get a report tomorrow on who's on Zoom?
They want to report on who's
Yeah.
on Zoom.
The other thing is that about a year ago, I had asked, and it was as a follow-up to some event somewhere with guns, that we look at hardening the front of the village hall. And I had suggested that perhaps we put up a wall and a door so that if people came in, that they would be able to go back into Village Hall. I know we have that nice
Theater room.
theater room, thank you, there, which I'm getting really good at jumping over, but I don't know what the cost would be, but I think from a security standpoint for our staff to try and harden it a little bit more, and even the glass there, I had suggested that maybe we look at some kind of a different glass that may not be as penetrable to any kind of a weapon. So I just want to bring that up again, particularly based on what happened the other day and in Uvalde and Buffalo, that you never know. And I know in talking with the staff up there that they sometimes deal with people who aren't happy. And I would hate to have something happen. So I'd like to just bring that back again and ask that we look into securing the front of the village hall to maybe enhance the security for the staff. And then that way they could, the women that are in the front, if they need to go talk to Jim or Jim or Lori, they don't have to, there would be a wall there with a door instead of just putting a door over like that. So, I don't know what anyone thinks, but I think it would be a good idea to do that.
Right, you know, first amendment auditor can go right through here and walk all the way through that hallway.
I know
all the
that.
way down.
That's why last year,
Right.
and everybody kind of laughed, because they thought I was trying to keep someone
No.
out of the village hall. So I think it's time to re-look at that. And it can
I appreciate it, yeah.
make sense.
We will look at that and bring it up and put it on the staff meeting as well. Any other business? If not, I have no need for executive session. So in that case, the motion to adjourn, trustee Dominion. Second, trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Minnick,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion to adjourn passed 5-0. 8:12 meetings adjourned.